I have the suspicion that somebody got together with the state's remaining witnesses and said, maybe you should start acting like police officers instead of advocates. Maybe you should just answer questions that are put to you instead of wrestling with these defense attorneys because you're making us all look bad. Exhibit number one in that suggestion is coming up. Hi, Tony DeWitt here. I'm a Missouri appellate attorney, retired, and I bring you a fresh perspective on the law without offering any legal advice. So pull up a chair. This is what we're discussing today. So we have Maureen Hartnett here, who is a crime scene technician who was involved in the processing of some of the vehicle of Ms. Reed's vehicle on the day after it was brought into the Sallyport. And it's really interesting now to watch her respond to these yes or no questions that come from Mr. Alessi and watch her answer them yes or no.
With regard to the taillight that you spoke about rather extensively on your direct examination, you likewise were not able to, and you make no conclusions as to the cause of that broken taillight, correct?
That's correct.
And you draw, therefore, no conclusions with regard to whether that taillight became in the condition that was discussed on direct examination pursuant to any alleged motor vehicle pedestrian incident, correct?
Correct.
The dent, the scratches, the broken taillight on the Lexus, to your knowledge, as you sit here today, could have existed before February 1st, 2022 when you went to Sallyport, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And to your knowledge, the dent, the scratches, the broken taillight could have existed before January 29th of 2022, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And now we're going to look at the injuries to the arm and some of the conclusions she either reached or didn't reach as to the injuries sustained by Mr. O'Keefe's arm.
You also looked for, as you stated, tissue, blood, biological material, and things of that nature on the vehicle, correct?
Yes, I did.
In that inspection of the vehicle, you didn't see any visible stains or tissue on the vehicle, did you?
No, I did not.
You were told, Ms. Hartnett, that there were wounds on the right arm of Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And at the time you went to the Sallyport on February 1st of 2022, you were not shown a photograph by anybody of the wounds on the right arm of Mr. O'Keefe, were you?
No, I was not.
However, you've seen since then a photograph of the right arm of Mr. O'Keefe and the wounds on that right arm, correct?
Yes, I have.
With your Honor's permission, if I could publish Exhibit 1 in evidence?
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Wolf? Ms. Hartnett, I'd ask you to take a look at that, and you recognize that what's depicted in that Exhibit 1, correct?
Yes, I do.
And you've seen that pattern of wounds on the right arm as depicted in a photograph of the decedent before, correct?
I've seen this photo before, yes.
You cannot state whether the wounds on the right arm as depicted in Exhibit 1 are from a motor vehicle, can you?
That would be on the scope of my expertise. I don't make any conclusions on injuries on a person.
So the answer is you cannot and do not make any conclusions with regard to the source of the wounds on the right arm as Mr. O'Keefe as depicted in that Exhibit 1, correct?
That's correct.
And you're also not able to state whether you observed anything on the vehicle.
Mr. Alessi, can we put are you done with this?
I'm not yet,
Okay.
Your Honor, but I will let the court know. It'll be shortly. Thank you. And you cannot state that you observed anything on the SUV that would cause the wounds on the right arm of Mr. O'Keefe as depicted in Exhibit 1, correct?
That is not a type of analysis I would perform.
So the answer to that question is no, you cannot state that you observed anything on the vehicle that would cause those wounds to the right arm of Mr. O'Keefe?
Sustain.
Now we get to some testimony that's damaging to the state in terms of her processing of the vehicle, including some of the testing of the vehicle. This is a little bit longer segment, but it's worth your attention.
Did you look toward the top of the lift gate of the Lexus vehicle when you were at the Sallyport Kent Police Department on February 1st of 2022?
Are you referring to the exterior or the interior?
Exterior.
I don't recall specifically looking at that area. I did an overall examination of the vehicle, with exception to the actual roof of the vehicle. So I don't remember specifically looking at that area.
So as you sit here today, there is nothing notable with regard to that area of the vehicle, correct?
I had nothing in my notes regarding that area, no.
And as you sit here today, there's nothing you're recalling that is notable about the tap part around the lift gate of the back of the SUV, correct?
That's correct.
Did anyone ask you to examine that area?
Not that area specifically, no.
Do you understand what I will refer to as the undercarriage of the vehicle?
Yes.
And what, just for the jury's better understanding, what are you referring to when you refer to the undercarriage of the vehicle? I know it may be common sense, but just to be clear.
What I understand the undercarriage to be, where if I was laying underneath the car, what I would be looking at, it include the muffler, various pipes, but that's the extent of my knowledge of vehicles.
So if we're talking about the back of the vehicle, and if we go sort of top to bottom, top where we were talking about the lift gate going all the way down, and then go to the bumper, and then go under the bumper and where it curls under the bumper, then with the bumper and underneath and more a little toward the front, is that what you're referring to as the undercarriage?
Yes, just the general area underneath the vehicle, extending from under the bumper to the front of the vehicle.
Right, so the undercarriage is not merely from the back, but it's underneath all the way toward the front of the vehicle, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you refer to all, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So all that area you refer to as the undercarriage.
Yes.
Did you notice anything of note in the undercarriage, as you just described it, of the vehicle?
No, I did not.
And as regards sampling that you discussed on your direct examination, did you take any samples of that undercarriage area of the vehicle?
I did not collect anything from the undercarriage, no.
And is the reason you didn't collect anything because you didn't see anything of note that was worthy of collection?
In addition to that, I also performed some testing of that area.
And what testing of that area did you perform?
I performed screening tests on some of the lower lying areas of the undercarriage, on the tire flaps, the edge of the bumper, the muffler pipe.
And what were the results of that testing, that screening testing?
Those results were negative.
And negative for what?
It was a screening test for the possible presence of blood.
So on the entire undercarriage, from where we started in the very back, all the way underneath, all the way up to the front, the screening test came back negative for any blood or other biological material or anything else of note that would be part of that screening test.
So I did not perform a screening test on the entire undercarriage. I just performed the screening test on the lower lying areas, and those were all negative. And there was also no visible staining in that area. So that is.
Then he circles back around to the issue of whether she knew about this or whether she could have known what the situation was prior to January 29th. And again, she answers honestly.
You had no way on February 1st, and you have no way today of knowing whether any or all of that damage was pre-existing before January 29th of 2022, correct?
That's correct.
So it's possible that all the damage that you've discussed could have existed before January 29th of 2022.
Yes, that's possible.
All in all, this was a very good witness for the defense in that she clearly showed that there was absolutely no biological evidence on that vehicle that indicated that it may have hit Mr. O'Keefe. And again, it's just one more brick in the wall, one more drip in the gallon bucket of evidence that goes against the prosecution's theory. That should be the end of the case after that and the medical examiner, but as I said, it won't be. That's what I have for you today. I hope you found it helpful, interesting, or maybe both. If there's a subject you'd like me to discuss, please feel free to send me an email at the address above. If you like what we do, please feel free to subscribe and come on back to the beach tomorrow. I release videos every weekday, weather and work permitting. If you have the opportunity today, do a kindness for your fellow man. It makes the world a better place, one kind act at a time. And now, YouTube has some suggestions for other videos of mine that you might like.